Now, taking that concept further, after you watch the Mula Bandha video about how to squeeze and pull up and in from your pelvic floor, squeezing your lingam muscles, your P muscles, squeezing the gooch and pelvic floor, and squeezing the anus, you're pulling all of these muscles up and in and squeezing tight and lifting and pulling the energy up that spinal column like a milkshake. Then the second lock in yoga is Uddiyana Bandha, which means navel lock. So we've got this pelvic floor lock, this root lock, squeezing everything up from the bottom, and then we have this navel lock, Uddiyana Bandha. There's better light on this side. So when I'm inhaling, I'm actually squeezing in and up from my lower dantian. So I'm doing this kind of motion, pulling up and in. So my belly actually comes behind my sternum and scoops up as I'm squeezing from my pelvic floor. So I'm squeezing up from my pelvic floor and back and up and in from the bottom, and back and up from the front, squeezing that energy up the channel, up the main channel. And then the third lock is called Juladhara Bandha, which is throat lock. I may have mispronounced the Sanskrit, but I'll try to leave that text in the description. But it's the same cues of Qigong. A lot of this you see is the same posture of like, oh, we already talked about that, pulling up and back and in and up and moving that energy upwards, up and in. We're trying to get that coiled snake that's lying at rest at the bottom of the spine to uncoil and work its way up to the crown. That's why you see the cobra at the top of the crowns of the kings. It's a symbol of the snake of wisdom, and that Kundalini Shakti life force energy coiling up and reaching that top energy center, reaching out through the crown. The energy has reached here and you've gained the wisdom, the enlightenment. The sun or the snake being that representation here at the third eye. So the throat lock is this very slight tuck down and in of the chin as we lift up and back from the front. So I'm actually trying to pull my jaw down and in a little bit as I take the back of my skull up and forward a little bit. So I'm creating this lengthening in the Taoist Secrets of Love by Montauk Chia, the cultivating male sexual energy, talking about seminal kung fu and the practice of moving this energy. The Jade Palace is the word that they use, the phrase to describe that C1, C2 cervical vertebrae at the base of the skull. And those vertebrae, when we add this tilting and tucking, orient themselves to open this channel, the energy channel at the very top of the spine, that then opens the gate into the Jade Palace, into the brain. And so it's the last of the three locks, the Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and Jaladhara Bandha. It's the last of the gates. And so each of these three gates, we want to squeeze and lift past this first gate, squeeze and lift to pass this second gate, and then squeeze and lift to pass this third gate, so that energy can freely move from the gonads up into the spinal column via the tailbone, the coccyx, up through the sacrum, up through that spinal column, all the way to the brain. That is the first part, the first half of the journey of the energy, going from up the back. And in Qigong, the traditional Chinese medicine, you have two major energy channels, one that runs up the back of the body and one that runs down the front of the body. They run in both directions, but you have a major energy flow that goes up the back and down the front. You have these two main channels that run. The back channel is called the functional channel, and the front channel is called the governor channel. So we're pulling and lifting and breathing that energy up the back channel, like we were just talking about, to the crown, and then we allow a settling action of that energy to drip down like warm honey, warm water, slowly dripping down the front of the body until it returns to its point of origin, the lower dantian, the cauldron, the reservoir of our life force energy. So we cultivate this life force energy, pull it from the earth, cultivate it from the sun, from our breath, and we lift it, refine it, and bring it up to the brain, to the crown, where that energy can be used for processes of healing in the body and accessing higher frequencies of consciousness, and then settled back down the front of the body and stored back in the lower dantian. So you always want to finish your Qigong practice, even meditation practice, energy practice in general, bringing that energy back down and storing it in the reservoir, the lower dantian. That's the whole idea of grounding that energy back down. Lock the key. You've got that energy. Say, put the lid on the cauldron and save that energy for when you want to take the lid off and serve that energy. Use that energy for your desired intent. So We inhale up the back, squeezing the pelvic floor, the deep navel, and then orienting the chin. So we've got a nice long open spinal column to inhale and pull that energy up physically and mentally up to the crown. And then we relax and let go of all 3 root locks, throat, pelvic floor, and deep navel core. We let them go and relax the whole body and just let gravity settle that energy down. And as you acclimate to this practice and do it more and become more sensitively attuned to energy, you will feel this warm, buzzy, tingly, soft, amazing sensation of bliss, peace, and calmness, and joy and happiness, tranquility sink down through your body like a warm blanket. I think of it like a snow globe. You may have heard this reference in one of the breathing videos. When you shake a snow globe, that's the pulling of the energy up, and then you just hold it still, and all the snowflakes just settle slowly. That's the chi, the prana, settling that energy, settling back down through the energy channels of the body and stored back down in the cauldron. So you can just continue this loop, this process for as many breath cycles as you want, and then when you finish, you always bring it back down in the front and finish here. So this loop, up the back, around the top and down the front, up through the around the bottom and up again through the back, it's called the microcosmic orbit. And you can think of how the earth revolves around the sun. If the sun was your heart, the center point in this loop, you're just orbiting around your heart, and the heart really is your connection point to your soul and to infinity, to source. So you're at that center point and you're just orbiting around. You're orbiting your attention, you're orbiting your physical awareness through contraction of muscles and bodily sensations. You're orbiting your mind and your body around your heart. That's the microcosmic orbit. And this is in itself a continuous breathing meditation that you can practice. Typically, the way that I teach it in the beginning and the way that you can implement this in the beginning is just as we do in Qigong, as we're moving here in this next posture, we're just breathing up and then breathing down. And then we add the movement of breathing up and breathing down. When you start to feel competent in your ability to elevate and expand the energy, the sensation in the body, your attention, your awareness, and then sink and contract that energy back down, just coming up on the inhale and coming down on the exhale, then you can start to add the orbital focus in your mind of not just a vertical line up and down, but it's actually an oval, it's an orbit, it's a loop. So it's a continuous circular pattern rather than just an up and down, back and forth pattern. Begin with the up and down until that feels comfortable and appropriate and easy to repeat without a lot of focus, and then begin to add that orbital up the back, around the top, down the front, around the bottom, up the back, extra layer of positional awareness to the microcosmic orbit.